Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. We're on day number 23, and I'm so excited for the incredible conversation that we're going to have here today because finally we are going to address one of the biggest fears and one of the biggest blockers that all of us face in our journey towards our goals, no matter what area of our lives it is, and that is a fear of failure. So many of us, no matter which background we come from, which country we belong to, which language we speak, or what kind of goals we have, this is the one fear that blocks our growth, that blocks our journey, and that makes us feel that no matter how hard we try, it's never going to be worth it because I could fail. Now, how many of you here are going through the same feelings, are going through the same challenges, and you're feeling this constant heaviness, this constant doubt, this constant worry? But will things work? Will I get to my goals? Will I achieve what I want to achieve? What if things go wrong? And in your mind, it's as if a movie is playing out constantly. You're in your work throughout the day, but behind something else is going on. You're in a meeting, you're talking to someone, and you're present to that moment, but you're also not present. You're also somewhere else inside your mind, worrying about a future failure, worrying about a future situation that hasn't even happened yet. And in this cycle, the biggest problem that happens is we lose out on our most crucial and most important resource, and that is our energy. We end up feeling drained, we end up feeling low, we end up going into this zone where dejection replaces happiness and inspiration, where rather than looking at our goal and feeling this sense of drive, this sense of courage, this sense that yes, I want to make it happen, I want to succeed, we start retreating back into our shells. You start feeling heavy in your chest, you label it anxiety, you label it doubt, but at the core of it is only this one major fear, and that is your fear of failure. You'd want success, that's great, but what scares you the most is the idea that I could try climbing and I could fall and I could fail. And the worst part, I wouldn't even say the worst part because nothing in life is bad. That's the belief I like to have. But the most tough part, we could say, of this entire thing is that 90% of failures that you're afraid of aren't even real. They're never going to happen in your life. So imagine this, okay? I'm going to give you a very crazy example, but I figured out one thing. Crazy examples make you understand, they make you listen, and they make you feel like, yeah, I finally got this concept now. So even if it's a crazy example, I'm going to go ahead with it. So imagine that you have a pet dog, okay? We're going to call this pet dog Tom. So Tom is a pet dog that you have. Now, what Tom does is, Tom cannot bark, and you thought that it's only because he has this condition or he has something else, or it's just that the dog doesn't know how to bark, so it's a silent dog. But then one day when you're walking with Tom on the road, suddenly another big scary animal comes up, and in that moment, rather than being silent and meek like the usual dog that Tom is, Tom starts barking very, very loudly, very, very aggressively, as if it's a completely new animal that has entered your dog, and it's trying to scare away the danger, the challenge, the big sudden emergency that's come up in front of both of you. And you're wondering, how is it that a dog who was silent for all these years suddenly knows how to bark now? It sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? It almost sounds like impossible thing that if the dog hasn't barked in so many years, how can the dog bark now? But well, guess what? I'm not talking about barking here. I'm not talking about a dog here. I'm talking about you and your ability to make things happen. Because all this time, this fear of failure that you have, right? It keeps you back from taking the action. Like some fear would have stopped the dog from trying to bark, Your fear of failure stops you from stepping out, stops you from taking action, stops you from becoming your best self, essentially. But then tell me this, haven't there been times in your life where even you are surprised, how did I do that? How did I make it happen? I honestly thought things were going to go down completely, and yet I managed to find myself out through that situation. How many of you have had this experience that a particular project at work, which is on a critical deadline, and if that deadline doesn't go through, that means almost everyone's jobs are done, because that's how serious and important the project is. Even without worrying, even without trying to find the way and the energy to let go of the fear, somehow you just get into that action mode and make it happen. How many of you have felt at the end of a fight in your relationships that there's no point talking to this person at all? This relationship's a failure. I don't think we can ever get along. And 2 days later, the two people are laughing again. It's as if the fight never happened. But it's not that the fight didn't happen. They recovered from the fight. They dealt with the fight. They grew from the fight. That is why something that could have been a failure did not end up being a failure for them. So, why is it that despite all this proof that you have in your life, of the times where you've succeeded even when there was no chance, of the times where you've played against the odds and you've won, of all the times when you were worried things wouldn't work out, but they still did, and yet, despite all of this proof, you're like that dog who cannot bark. Not that the dog cannot bark, the dog chooses not to bark, it just gives a reason like I cannot, or it's not possible. Just like that, it's not that you cannot take action, it's not that you cannot succeed, it's not that you have certain inabilities because of which you are destined to failure. That's not what it is. If it were, your life would not have proof of the fact that you can succeed, that you can make it happen. The problem is we delete all that proof, we delete all that success from the past, and we only focus on a future failure that isn't even guaranteed. Are you seeing how this fear is holding you back? You might think, oh, I'm just trying to be prepared for the worst. Well, guess what? By not taking action, by not doing the things that you know you need to do, by postponing those steps only because you don't want to look bad in front of other people, you've already failed. You've already entered the worst case scenario. Because if you'd have taken action, maybe your chances of failure would have been 90%, and your chances of success would have been 10%, which is a pretty slim ratio. But when you don't take action, your chances of failing are 100% anyways. So the fear is actually useless. When you fear failure, you get the thing you fear the most, because when you fear failure, you don't try. And when you don't try, you know for sure that success isn't going to come your way. And when success does not come your way, guess what? You have already failed. So, what was the fear even about? You see, we label it a fear of failure. Actually, it's not. If it's okay with you, I'd like to share the real definition of this fear of failure that we have. Lean in closer, okay? This is going to be important. What we call a fear of failure is actually a fear of trying and failing and making a mess in front of other people, because that mess would show them that I'm an imperfect human being who hasn't figured out his or her own life. That's the real fear. That judgment, that cynicism, that skepticism, that challenge, that barrier, that's the real fear that blocks you from taking the action that you want. And I'll give you my example here because I believe it will resonate. Anyways, we're on the 23rd session of these daily live sessions that we're doing from Monday to Friday, every single day at 8:30 p.m. Now, the speaking skill that I have, this communication skill, this idea of just coming here, talking to you about a few things, well, it wasn't that I didn't have this idea before. I did. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to try it on Instagram as well. I wanted to try it out here on YouTube as well. But you know what was holding me back? It was this fear of failure. Now I recognize it was not the fear of failure, it was this fear of being judged and perceived by how imperfect I could be. But I'll come to that point and connect it all the dots for you. First, let's begin with this point of fear of failure. So, my fear there was, what if I, start these live sessions and then nobody joins, and it's like I'm speaking to a wall, and then there's no views on these videos on my channel. I have no idea how YouTube lives even work. Some of my audience even isn't even engaged, and all these thoughts were already running in my head before I even sat down here to record my very first YouTube live. Or not even record, just to present and come here live, right? It's getting recorded automatically as I'm speaking. So that fear was holding me back, and I was labeling it as fear of failure. I thought, well, maybe the day I cross 1,000 subscribers or the day I cross 10,000 subscribers, I'll have a big enough audience to go live and to connect with people live. But guess what? That was not the real fear. You know what the real fear was? It was that, what if I try doing these YouTube lives, I don't succeed at it, and it becomes another public proof of something Prabhsimrat has tried that just doesn't work? That's what was holding me back. I didn't want the feeling, or the feeling I assumed would come, if people were to come to my YouTube channel and see that, oh, he's trying YouTube lives. Look, he's not getting any views also. He's just, doing so many different things. He's no idea what he's doing. And it's not even that people would judge me like that, but I had that thought within me that stopped me from taking this action, that stopped me from overcoming this fear of failure. But the day when that changed, it was the day I realized this lesson that I told you, that when I try, my chances of failure are maybe 90%, maybe 99%, maybe 99.99999%. But there's that 0.000000001% chance that things are going to work out. But when I don't try, when I just give up, guess what happens? Flat 100% failure rate. And so I thought, well, yeah, I could start doing the YouTube lives and probably no one joins in, and probably it's a failure, and probably it's a disaster, and probably a week or two later, I'll stop them. But at least I would have tried, right? At least I would have found out, okay, this does not work. Let's focus on something else. But because I tried it out, we are on session number 23 here. We're after the fourth week, probably. Last week, we completed 4 weeks of doing it live. This is the fifth week that's going on. And we have so many people joining in. I see the comments later on. I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the comments while the video is going on because the chat box completely on a different side. So I just focus on the camera here, but I do go through the comments later on. It gives me a good feeling. But you see, the fear that I was holding on to, this worry that what would happen if nobody joined? What would happen if my YouTube lives also fail? Well, guess what? That fear was not real, because there's been a YouTube live that later on got more than 140 views afterwards. I don't know how it happened. It just picked up. People saw that video more and more. But those views would never have existed. That video would have never reached the people had I not chosen to step beyond the fear and give myself a shot at success. Give myself a possibility that maybe this thing could work out. So, my question to you is this: whatever it is that you're holding your fear of failure towards, whatever it is that you're holding this worry and this judgment and this doubt and uncertainty and so many things towards, just try it out. Worst case scenario, your fears come true. And that worst case scenario is the only guaranteed scenario if you never take the action. But take the action, put in the effort, try it out for just some time. Because for that 0.0000001% chance, right, you're going to realize it was worth it. You're going to realize, yes, this is what I was looking for. Because the best people in the world, the masters of their game, they don't win all the time. They play so much that the number of times they fail is much greater than the number of times other people even try And that is why the number of their wins are also so much higher, and they're at world number 1, they're at world number 2, they're in the top 10%. It's not rocket science, it's basic psychology, and it's a basic commitment to yourself that I am willing to take the shot on myself. I am willing to try and fail, because not trying, not doing anything, not taking any action at all is the worst failure of all. I'm going to repeat that again. Not trying, not doing anything, not taking any action at all is the worst failure of all, because you haven't just failed at your task in the present, you've also failed at fulfilling your unlimited potential into the future. So now that you understand, this is why we're afraid of failing. I just want you to ask yourself this one question. Even if I succeed, even if the chance is 0.0001%, is that chance worth it for me? Is that chance really something I look forward to? And if the answer is yes, if you're that aligned to the work that you're doing, to this goal that you have in your mind, I'd say go for it. Even the failures will teach you, even the failures will become stepping stones that take you to the next step. And it's not that human beings can avoid failure anyways. So try more, do more, act more, fail more. I would say the more you fail, the more you grow, because then you play the game long enough to actually see the success that you deserve. And through all of that, I know it can get difficult to have that belief in yourself, to have that courage in yourself. So just remind yourself of this one thing: the more I fail, the more I succeed. The more I fail, the more I succeed. The more I fail, the more I succeed. So every time you fail from now on, you're going to be like, wow, good. More success is coming my way. May not sound logical to you, but just try it and see how your mind completely rewires its attitude to failure. And I'm telling you, you are going to be a massive action taker, because you're going to be okay with the fact that even if people see me fail, it's okay. I would rather fail in front of their eyes than fail in front of my own potential. The day you can believe that, the day you can focus on that, the day you can take action from that intrinsic lens of exploring your potential to the fullest, fear of failure is going to be a thing of the past for you. It's never going to bother you again. You may fail, yes, I'm not saying you won't, but will you be afraid of those failures? Not anymore. You'll deal with them with grace, love, acceptance, and joy. And that frees you to learn from the failure and not just suffer from it. And that's ultimately what we all need to keep growing and to keep succeeding in our lives. So, tonight, reminisce a bit on this. Remember all those things in the past you considered were a failure, but have actually turned out to be better things for you today. And you will see failure isn't so bad after all. And you'll recognize I'm only afraid of a fictional story inside my head. The day I change that, everything else changes. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me and turning what could have been a potential failure for me into a success that I love doing every day at 8:30 p.m. So tomorrow, once again, I'll see you live at the same time. Till then, take care. Bye bye.